Planning a trip to Portugal? Whether you're exploring Lisbon, surfing in Ediceto, or road tripping through the Alentejo, staying connected is essential. I use Airalo every time I travel, even on some surfboat trips, adventures to the Maldives. So when we connected to collaborate, I was really genuinely happy. Airalo's eSIMs give you instant data the moment you land in a foreign country. No queues, no physical SIM cards, just seamless, reliable coverage. Travel smarter, stay connected, download Airalo before your next adventure. Follow this link in the show notes to get connected today. This is Justin West from Podcast Portugal. I'd like to extend a really warm welcome to Jamie Kristian. He is the creator of the YouTube channel Global Food Quest. Jamie explores cultures, communities, and cuisines around the world through universal language of food. Having now made Portugal his home, Jamie brings a unique outsider's perspective on Portuguese culture, regional gastronomy, and the lifestyle that continues to attract people from across the globe. Jamie, a big warm welcome to you.
It is good to talk to you. Thanks for having me on, man. How are you doing, Justin?
Yeah, very awesome. Very welcome, very welcome. And I did find you actually on Instagram from your recent adventures at the Costa da Caparica, the Sardinians Festival.
Dia de Pescadores.
Yeah, it was really cool coverage. And you got so many really positive comments from locals as well. They're all stoked that you're so happy to discover the Portuguese cuisine. So you've recently moved here, or you've been here for a while, or what's the story? How did you get to do? Because I noticed it's Global Food Quest, so I'm assuming that it was originally beyond Portugal.
It will be. It begins in Portugal. Portugal is the nucleus and the best place to start, and of course, the place where I'm living. So it begins here. Portugal will forever, I think, be the nucleus of the channel. But it began as we should cut back to pescadores actually in a little bit, Dia de Pescador, because I've got something that blows me away. So I'll try and tie this into that. But no, it began as a little passion project, maybe 7 years ago, and I've always been obsessed with food. Always, I'm an actor. That's my background. And I used to live in Australia, and I was leaving Australia to move to Berlin from London originally, and to move to Berlin. But I had all these travels planned pre-arrival in Berlin, and I thought, I was at a bit of a loss. It was a tempestuous moment in life, and so I just was traveling around, eating, drinking, and exploring all over the place.
Sounds
so the
perfect.
first ever post, if you scroll back to the beginning of my Instagram, I wanted to, I was paying homage to this iconic place in NYC, Katz's Delicatessen. And I thought any foodie blog, any food content, any food storytellers worth their salt have to visit Katz's at some point. So I thought I will begin the whole of my Instagram. The first post will be the pastrami and rice sandwich with a root beer at Katz's Delicatessen in New York. And so it began, a long process of traveling, posting, and essentially just a passion project until arriving in Portugal.
Yeah, I think often these projects, it just starts from the heart, right? And then because it's the only way that you're going to sustain it, because it's not easy in the beginning, right? You have to keep posting, keep working, keep posting, keep working, and then eventually,
it has to come from love and passion, because it is utterly unsustainable. It's been about 8 years of just spending and posting and creating for nothing. For literally nothing.
Brilliant.
So I mean, it has to be a passion project. It has to begin with love and passion. I think that's the only way these things ever take root, because you can't set out. I mean, that's the only thing that's going to drive you to keep going for 8 years.
Yeah, you have to be obsessive, and what a great thing to be obsessive about, like food and wine and travel, because it's so important in a world at the moment which is just horrible media trying to divide everybody. Food, not always wine, but food and drink is something that definitely joins us together and brings communities together and brings people together in a festive atmosphere. And I think it's such an important vision. Yeah, so that's my political statement over and done
No,
with.
I think that's so worth mentioning because I'll be honest, funnily enough, this morning, I have my political feed that I occasionally binge on from midnight to 2 in the morning and, like, traumatize myself with before I go to sleep, ranting and raving. And this morning, what's been so pleasurable about going full hammer and tongs with GFQ is exactly what you said. It's taken me out of that toxic political landscape, and just put me back into, like, deep-rooted connection and passion through food and drink and culture.
Mm,
And I funnily enough, this morning, I said to myself, "That's it, I'm done. Like, I'm gonna, really limit my sort of, my time in that other landscape because
mm,
for just my own psychological well-being, I
mm,
think it's important, like, yes, there's a lot going on in the world. Yes, politics is real, but, it's not necessarily a, um, a a good place to position yourself in for your psychology on a daily basis.
yeah,
So back to food and drink and
yeah.
championing the culture of Portugal for me.
Yeah, it's not putting blinkers on, is it? It's like more of a traditional focus, bringing your focus to the people that are around you, to your neighbors and your local communities, bringing the focus there and just being less worrying about all the other things that can happen in the world because we're not genetically made to consider the 7 billion people on this planet, their fate. And I think, in some ways it's very important for us just to sort of not look inward, but just look a little bit locally.
I
Um,
totally agree because this as that, that meme goes, like, "The sky isn't falling." If I walk out of my front door, it's a beautiful day and there's a lot of nice, wonderful, connected things going on around me. It's
yeah,
not trauma and mayhem. It is in parts of the world. We're blessed that it's not here, but yeah, I don't think, to your point, we're made to be, bombarded with the world's troubles on a daily basis. I don't think it's healthy.
yeah. And one of the most beautiful things I think about your channel as well, and the responses that I read, a lot of the Instagram comments on your Instagram profile, is local Portuguese people just being so proud that you're drawing attention on their culture, their traditions, and their food. And indeed, I can see on many of your videos and posts, like you're with some local Portuguese guy who's just like, yeah, this is the best. Moelhas is the most well-known Portuguese dish, and you could just see the passion pouring out to and wanting to show you Portuguese culture and take you to places, try this, try that. And I think it's a great way to learn about culture and to immerse yourself in the country that you're living in.
Totally agree, and it's been so underrepresented. This is what blows me away about this amazing country. So, talking about Dia de Pescadores in Costa da Caparica. So those fishermen have been fishing that style, art, I always pronounce it wrong, art Zaveja, that's the wrong pronunciation, fishing, but for hundreds of years, right? So you can travel all round Europe and all through the Mediterranean. And if you're in the Mediterranean, hardly any local fishing actually goes on anymore because there's no fish. But on these beaches here in Portugal, there's kind of thriving, real, daily local fishing industry with these, like, fishing in a way. Obviously there's tractors instead of oxen or horses now, but fishing in a way that's been done for hundreds of years, and it's unbelievable to get to see that. It just blows my mind. I mean, I was trying to get that video. I keep trying to get the attention of UNESCO to consider that specific practice
Mm.
part of, their, cultural intangible heritage protection. Because I just think it's something you don't see in other European nations very often at all.
Mm.
It's something that certainly you hardly ever see in the UK unless it's like a one-off day a year, like casting some strange historic, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just doing it for the sake of remembering what once happened. But here it's a real part of daily culture. And it's unbelievable that we get to see that. So I find it so exciting to be able to tell those stories and sort of show the world what Portugal actually has, because I think it's been underrepresented historically.
Yeah, I think it stems from almost like a cultural modesty in many ways. It's like an unwillingness to impose perhaps their culture on other places. Because if you if you imagine Italy, you immediately imagine pasta, spaghetti, pizza, or France, you imagine food, and Spain, you imagine paella or whatever. But Portugal, like you should ask like just people like, what would you think about putting? They probably say piri piri chicken or something, or Nando's, which actually isn't really Portuguese anyway.
Yeah, South African. Well, I mean, interesting.
South
We're going
African Portuguese, yeah,
Portuguese and South African roots.
yeah, yeah. But
But I totally agree with you. If you even asked me, and I've been to Portugal at the age of 16, and if you said to kind of me pre moving here, to talk to me about Portuguese food, and this is sort of coming from someone who's obsessed with gastronomy, I would have said like pastel de nata and sardines.
mm,
And like, let's be honest, yes, pastel de nata and yes, sardines. They are kind of pinnacle Portuguese food experiences. But you get here and there's steak restaurants everywhere,
mm,
and you're like, hang on, they've got a beef culture. Yeah, they do. A rich beef culture.
mm.
There's, the whole thing. So it's kind of, I feel like it's this like a bit like the Portuguese in the early age of discoveries when they went out not knowing what they were going to find. Like I find myself here kind of like childishly witnessing these brand new novel things on European soil when I thought I'd already tasted everything, and
Yeah.
turns out I haven't.
I think that's the thing, right? I think Portugal. I think that's how the tourist board or tourism de Portugal should market Portugal as a place. Not that we're going to put lots of pictures and stuff in front of you, but it's a place. Come and have a journey, discover places. Because I think I've been here 14, 15 years now, and I'm still discovering areas of Portugal, or like you say, festivals or things that happen. I'll go, well, okay, that happened. All right, I'm going to need to go and see that next time. And like you were saying earlier, it's just so much going on, so many festivals, Day of the Saints, and all kinds of crazy stuff happening, and it's just such a place to discover.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then what's amazing about it from that kind of like a traveler's perspective is excuse me, you're 5 hours north to south, if that, right? If
Yep,
that, or about that maybe.
yep,
And once you get to kind of the Algarve, it's about an hour and a half, isn't it? Something like that from Sagres to Vera. So it's like it's a very doable proposition to kind of go deep and explore and get these massive changes in local culture, a bit like you can see in the UK, interestingly,
mm,
where from one town to another, the accent's different, the culture's different, what they're celebrating is like different. Like all the conventional sweets and pastries here, every single town has its own pastry, and some of them are 500 years of history. So that's you don't have to travel too far to see something completely very Portuguese, but also completely different from the last town you were in, which is cool.
yeah. I'm based pretty much in the middle of the sort of south of Lisbon area, so I can't. It's like 30 minutes, 40 minutes for me to get to the coast on the Alentejo. Is about hour and 20 down south and hour and 20 up to Lisbon. So I have nice central place, and what we're discovering a lot is east. So there's a lot of really crazy castle towns on the border with Spain, and there is a lot of Spanish culture there, and a little bit of mix of this, and a lot of pork, and a lot of really interesting dishes. And I went to interview a few guys that make wine, called the Talha Mafia, and they're classic. You should definitely go and get in. I can put you in contact with those guys because
Do you know what's funny? You should say that because I was scrolling on your Instagram, obviously before we were talking, and
yeah.
I was digging into that post, and I thought that looks freaking cool. Yeah,
Oh, they're so
what's
cool.
going on with them?
Oh man, and their wine is absolutely fantastic. It's one of the only wines that I've ever drunk that I haven't had like a headache. It's so clean and so crisp and so wonderful. And those guys,
Perhaps you didn't drink enough.
yeah, well, that's probably true. Yeah, I was driving, so. But they took me into. They have a big table in there amongst all these big clay pots where they make the wine in the traditional Roman method. And the
They make them in
stories, yeah, they make them in these big things called Taglias. And there's a beautiful story. They talk about how they've named each one of these clay pots after Roman women. And it's important because the way that they crush up the grapes and the seeds and the skins all sit at the very top of the Talha, and over time it descends, and then the wine is then born through the mother and comes up to the top. And so and then all the sediment settles at the bottom, and then when you tap it, there's a traditional date when they tap all the Talha wines, and they tap it and taste it, and the wine literally filters back through all of the sediment, and it's like a woman giving birth. So that's why they named all the Taglias after Roman women. It's like he told me this story, and I was just like, wow, that is so cool.
So it's sitting on the lees the whole time. It never gets filtered until the end. And really, it's a very rustic filtration. I guess a bunch of sediment comes back through with the finished product.
Yeah, well, in their bottles of wine, like you have that, you always have that little bit of sediment at the bottom, so you need to treat it properly. You can't sort of shake the bottle of wine up and stuff. It's a traditional natural wine, so you have that little bit of sediment, so you can't pour it right to the last drop.
No.
But yeah, and then they took me on this. They took me out for lunch as well, and just tons and tons of dishes of these little, I don't know, just samples of food. So we had all types of crazy stuff, and we tried all these other different wines as well. And then we had these old boys would come in and start singing randomly.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, I fully recommend you go and visit these guys. They're absolutely awesome. Really,
I'm already like you're talking. I'm already just in my head creating the video. It's really exciting for me.
It is really cool.
So where are they based? They're east near the Spanish border.
Yeah, it's called. I have to remember the name now. It's called Vila de Frades. So
Vila de Frades.
Vila de Frades. So it's a little bit north of Évora. So it's in the Alentejo, a little bit. I think it's probably about 2-hour drive from Lisbon, something like that.
Super cool.
Vila de Frades, and it's very, very. They have a big food. They have a big wine festival as well. There's actually a big vineyard there, a very famous one. I think it's called Racine. You'll probably see their wines in the supermarkets, and they have a big festival there, like a wine and growers festival, and they all attend that. And the boys, the Talha Mafia, have the after party.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, so that's something. That's another thing you should probably have a look at because it's yeah. Anyway,
hell yes. Do you know that's another thing? Just talking about it, Portuguese wine.
Yes.
Oh, like my goodness, what? It sounds like you like drinking wine. Are you? Am I detecting some South African?
No. See,
Right.
I was actually born in Yorkshire, so randomly, and we lived in
you're a
Cornwall.
Yorkshireman.
Yeah, I lived in Cornwall, and I grew up in Saudi Arabia. So I went to all these international schools, and my accent just got bastardized, by all these other kids and stuff I went to school with. So I have a strange accent for sure.
Half my family's from Bolton, so you and I are War of the Roses.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
You and I are making peace right now.
Yeah, exactly.
From a Lancashireman to a Yorkshireman.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, I was only there for 6 months.
It's interesting though, isn't it? I used to say the reason I asked that is because obviously South Africa, huge wine, but I living in Australia, I used to sell quite a lot of wine, and they have a very rich New World wine culture in Australia.
Yeah.
But I'd be selling bottles of wine that it's obviously a lot of this is like tax based thing, but an absolute fortune in Australia. And you come to Portugal, and I've drunk some of the best wines I've ever had. And for a fraction of what they might retail at in Australia.
Mm.
Just phenomenal wine.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's happened is I can remember 15, 20 years ago looking for Portuguese wine. And it was an idea that I had to import Portuguese wine to the UK. And there was only one off license in London that sold Portuguese wine at the time. And I think at that moment, it was because it was just Portuguese wine was just so many small independent vineyards. But of course, it's gone through massive changes now. I don't know how many vineyards that you've visited around here, but I mean, it's completely crazy now. These places are awesome, and they have all their ennotourism set up and beautiful buildings and architecture. So they've really, taken off. There's been a lot of investment in them. But I did read somewhere that they were having to dump a lot of wine because there was too much wine. Can you believe that we could have too much wine? It was affecting prices.
Yeah, no, and it was so strange. Australia had the same issue. This is going back 10 years ago, but there was a glut of wine. They couldn't sell all the wine, so it comes down to labels and storytelling on the point of the marketing and all of this. But very, very strange situation to have more wine than can be sold or drunk.
Yeah,
Very weird. But I mean, yeah, that's a very odd economical anomaly.
yeah,
I don't quite understand it,
yeah,
but it
isn't
did
it?
happen in Oz.
Yeah. Well, they do say globally, like people are drinking much less. I don't know how much less, but everyone's going for the fitness but I don't believe really. I mean, I'll have a few glasses of wine at a weekend, probably once or twice a month. I mean, I really don't drink very much, but then I really do like to enjoy wine. I don't drink it to get pissed, I like to have it as an accompaniment to food, especially like a really crisp white wine with sardines or
Yeah,
seafood.
beautiful, beautiful. I like drinking it for both reasons.
Yeah.
I'm probably one of the only 45-year-olds around that's not doing I'm cleaning up my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, too much wellness, man.
Yeah,
Get
yeah,
out of here.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Get out of
you
town.
you wait till you hit 50, that might change.
Well, look, I mean, I say that with a wry smile. I went through a process of giving up a few old habits, but I'm very happy with my food and booze.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to enjoy life. That's part of it, isn't it? And I definitely enjoy it when I enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Look, that's the thing. Well, here's the other thing about being here, which has blown me away and been very easy to do, is the outdoors lifestyle. The sun, I have been one of those people that discovered paddle.
Oh, right. Great. Great.
And
Yeah.
it's just the best game I've ever played. I just
Yeah.
love it. So I'm so much kind of more, I'm playing paddle, then there's walking a dog on the beach, and it's very, um, despite all the partying and the festivities, it really is a healthy outdoorsy lifestyle, all the
Yeah.
sunshine and coast.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't need the stress relief often. Do you surf? I was thinking because you lived in Australia and now in Portugal, maybe there was some surfing history there.
No, do you know, 7 years in Australia. Only in my final year did I make it to the beach.
Wow. Okay.
And then my eyes, I mean, I'd always lived by the coast and near the beach, but like actually moved to the beach. And even with like a year on the beach, I love surf culture, but did I surf? Only in my last 2 weeks before I left, I
Wow.
booked into 2 weeks of surfing lessons.
Yeah.
Traveled around, went to booked into a surf course in Mexico at one point, did a week surfing, and I just think I love getting in the ocean and swimming, but I can't stand putting on a wetsuit. I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
stand the big board blowing in the wind, and I think what I've realized is I absolutely adore surf culture, and I
Yeah.
watch surf documentaries relentlessly,
Okay.
but I'm just the guy that likes to get in the ocean, cool off, and then
Nice.
have a beer on the beach.
Yeah. Do a bit of
I
body
think, and I
surfing.
like go fishing. That's sort of where I'm at.
Nice. 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 Yes.
Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I've been a surf coach now for 30 years or something like that. So yeah, I've got another company called justinwestcoaching.com. So I train athletes and stuff with video analysis and coaching and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I like lots of different things, and yeah, surfing for me is like my sort of main career, I suppose you
Well,
could say.
that's interesting. So let's, we will stay in touch. But so my partner, on the other hand, Phil, he's DOP, cameraman, and the man behind the magic of the edit.
Yeah.
He was an ex-professional cricket player,
Okay. What's his last name?
and avid sportsman, phenomenal golfer, and an amazing surfer. He's one of those guys that
Yeah.
anything, just give him a ball, like anything he touches, it's like he's just really good at it
Brilliant.
sports wise. So he's an avid surfer. So I've been promising him since we began for the last 6 months. Yes, mate. Let's. I'm coming surfing with you, but it hasn't quite happened yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe at some point we should all do a little surfing episode.
Yeah, come down to Alentejo and come to the coast here because it needs a little bit of a spotlight on, because it's well, that's always the dichotomy that I have with surfing because you don't want too many people, but you do want a little bit of culture. You know what I mean? Like too many people spoil the surf,
Yeah,
and you
I
start
get
to
it.
sort of upset locals, but it's a tightrope between a balance between sort of tourist money and not rocking the apple cart, so to speak.
So true, man. Threading the needle, talking
Yeah,
about culture and all of that business. It's, yeah. There's a needle to be thread, to keep things working and everyone
positive and
happy and vibrating correctly.
yeah. I think it's true. I mean, I don't think it's just sort of surfing, but I think I spoke to a chap yesterday in an interview with Podcast Portugal about he was talking about he's written a few books on the geography of prosperity, and he was sort of doing a little bit of a research on Lisbon, and how sort of spaces and the architecture of a city is one of its markers and one of 5 markers for its success and for the happiness of the people that live amongst it. And he was saying sort of like cultural spaces and food and wine and experiences and people going out and eating and drinking is a marker of a happy populace. It was such an interesting discussion, and he said that Lisbon just blew his mind because of everything that it did, its spaces, its culture, its cafe culture. Although it is a city, everybody feels like they're local in their own areas.
Yeah, yeah, and those phenomenal parks with the I always name the structures wrong. Sorry, what are they called? The little, the beautiful little ornate green structures where everyone gets their drinks and cakes from. Not pavilions.
Maybe Pavilion.
No, no, no. In the parks where the kiosks
Kiosk. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
should be
Yeah.
called a pavilion. Much nicer name than kiosk.
Yeah.
But those ornate kiosks, I was sort of digging into them at one point,
Okay.
thinking of doing a video series on them, and they were was it I forget the name of the architect, but just kind of putting that thought into something and placing it in a beautiful, well kept botanical park.
Mhm.
Um, what a hub for each community, and they're all over Lisbon.
Yeah. I didn't know that's something that's passed me by. I've never noticed them. That's something I'm going to look out for now. I'm going to open my eyes.
No,
Look for the
you
kiosk.
the green kiosks,
I've probably
which are in
seen
every
them.
park.
Yeah, I've probably seen them, but they probably just I haven't sort of registered, if you know what I mean.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. There's a little hack to those as well. If you're a local, you can sign up with your email, and we should probably keep this to this is one of those things, this is threading the needle.
Yeah.
But but you get if you're a local and you live here, you can sign up to some of these. They're owned by about 3 separate companies, and then you can get money off up to 50% in some cases, depending on the day,
Wow.
I'm told. I'm yet to do it, but
Yeah.
I've been told that's a reality.
50% off a coffee. So it's like 30 cents or something like that.
Well,
50%.
exactly, yeah. I don't I know I don't have one I regularly frequent enough to
Hmm.
feel comfortable doing that. I
Yeah.
just anytime I'm at one, I'd rather pay full whack, keep them going.
Yeah, I mean, I just got back from Switzerland. I ran like a surf training camp in one of the wave pools up there, and it was like €5 for a cup of coffee, and I was just like, do yeah, I literally was drinking 1 cup a day, because I couldn't justify my normal like 6 espressos.
No, I mean, exactly. How goes Portugal? I mean, funny thing is, interestingly though, once you start living here, like it's well, we don't need to go into that, but relatively, it's not easy once you start living here. I was kind of doing the maths and
Hmm.
you know on things like that. Well, anyway, we don't need to go into
No,
that.
we could because I think it's like I'm often so rosy and rose tinted glasses talking about Portugal, but I think there is realities that I'm starting to sort of see a little bit more now, sort of 14, 15 years in here. Like sometimes like it can be a little bit frustrating getting things done. But now obviously with a lot of the fuel costs, but I think it seems to be like a European thing and even a global thing. Everybody's moaning a little bit now with the cost of everything, you know?
Oh, yeah, I mean, the money, the printing money, and it's just like, everyone's getting squeezed to the eyeballs. So it's
Yeah.
a fragile world at the moment. The interesting thing that I was digging into that kind of started turning my head to kind of the plight of local people in Lisbon was when I first got here about 12 months ago, someone was, people were talking about the rents in the centre of Lisbon and
Mm.
people couldn't afford to be there. And from a Londoner's, I grew up just outside of London. From like a London perspective, I thought to myself, but Lisbon's a capital city. And I thought, well, no Londoner lives in the centre of London since in my whole life. It's too expensive. It's the capital city. Do you know what I mean? Like no one lives in Covent Garden or Soho. Everyone's out in zone 2, 3, you name it, miles and miles away from the center. So I said, yeah, that's kind of just been normal as a Londoner. But, of course, Lisbon's gone through this very far Lisbon hasn't always I mean, it was Lisbon, it was the wealthiest city in the world, almost at one point. But in recent history, it's gone through a very vast, quick transformation on this, on this kind of globally positioned itself as like a go-to city for tourism, place for people to go and buy and get their golden visa and all of that business. And actually, for locals living here in 20 years, they've been squeezed relentlessly with those rents. And I started seeing it from the Portuguese point of view. Like, that's all very well me saying that about London, but that's been over the course of forever, in at least, 100 years. But in Lisbon, that's say what maybe happened in 20 years,
Yeah.
this explosion. And actually, I was asking AI to do the maths, and yeah, to the average national wage, it is more unaffordable for Portuguese people to try and rent in Lisbon than a Londoner or a British person trying to rent in London.
Yeah,
So,
relatively.
and that blows you away because I know in the centre of London, a two-bed flat's going for like 3 grand at the moment a month. So, like,
Yeah.
who's living in those?
Yeah.
So, so I think, yeah,
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
it's a big conversation piece for the whole of Europe, like you said,
Mhm.
and everywhere. But I think extra poignant for kind of local Portuguese people. It's happened even quicker for them.
Yeah. I mean, we were I was originally living in the Algarve, and it was a very similar thing. Like in Lagos, everybody would be sort of trying to look for temporary accommodation to rent. There'd be queues and queues and queues, but everything was sort of already on the alojamento local, the short-term rent or for sale. And so, people just couldn't afford temporary workers just couldn't afford to live there. It was always a big struggle. And then we moved up to Ericeira, and there, I don't know how much you know about there, but it's 30-minute drive into Lisbon. And now that place is just taken off, like property prices. It's crazy. It's like almost a commuter belt into London, but also next to the surf. So it's just become crazy up there. And so we moved from there because we just couldn't find anything, the sort of space we wanted for for
Yeah.
the price. So we ended up moving into the Alentejo, and it's empty around us. It's there's plenty of places to go. You just got to sort of take a little bit of a gamble.
Yeah, on where to go.
Yeah.
But then, and to put that into perspective as well, and then play the other side of the fiddle, like Ericeira is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
It's a favorite place of the Portuguese people. That always has been to go. It's phenomenally beautiful. It's rooted in like their history with the story of the prince and all of this. It is only like 35 minutes from Lisbon. So, that's the equivalent of, it will be some kind of version of living in Chelsea.
Yeah.
Like, that is the strange and truthful reality. It's been one of the most beautiful places. Also, if you list something a World Surf Reserve and you want that label, you've given that's the label you've given it. So boom, that adds an extra triple premium on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like these, you know what I mean? Like it's a yin and yang to kind of every positive, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very interesting. It's very difficult. And I can understand because, like a lot of Portuguese people, many have left the Alentejo region, simply either in this generation or previous generations to work, or to get education or to get, to be around public institutions like galleries or the theater or whatever. So it's kind of left a little bit of a hole in the Alentejo. So there's a lot of old people here, but not a lot of young people.
How far down are you? Without
So it's an hour and 20,
location?
straight down the A2, 1 hour 20, literally from
Okay.
Lisbon. Yeah.
Because that interest, I hear that's interesting because I was looking though. I just wanted to check out of life and get near a beach. I was originally wanted to get in the countryside. I was looking around down there.
Interesting.
I was just so happy to just get out of the city. I was living in Berlin for 8 years, but I'm pleased we are where we are. But yeah, I can't wait to get down there and start kind of experiencing some of the Alentejo culture.
Yeah.
And the bread and the wine. I mean, the thing is, again, it's interestingly, I've heard when you hear Americans talk, they speak about it like it's how California used to be.
If you're looking to level up your surfing, JWC has got a couple of ways to get you moving forward. I'm running in-person surf coaching sessions here in Portugal with flexible dates. So if you're traveling through or planning a trip, we can lock in a few sessions and work on exactly what your surfing needs. And thanks to our collaboration with SurfRec, the AI robotic filming system now operating in Ribeira de Ilhas and Carcavelos, you can get footage of your sessions. Just send me 5 clips and I break down every detail for you. But even if you're not in Portugal, no problem. You can send me up to 5 waves from anywhere in the world. Surf trip to Indo, comp heats, or your local surf break. Even wave pools. If you got the footage, I'm happy to analyze it. If you want to dive deeper into SurfRec, check out our Podcast Portugal episode 50 with Zé Ferreira to book surf coaching sessions, to find out more about our immersive surf training camps schedule, online video analysis program, and special JWC rates for using SurfRec. Head to justinwestcoaching.com. Direct links in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah, you hurt your knee in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was sparring with like 110 kilo dude, and he did a handstand and managed to land on my knee as I was pulling out and just sort of bent it sideways and backwards.
Oh,
So
sorry.
yeah, it's hideous. I thought when I did it, I was like, 2 weeks later, I'll shake this off, and then it didn't really happen. It fractured all of the ends of the bones there, under the kneecap.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you can't wear a cast or anything like that. So the knee all swells up and goes all stiff, and then you start to, if you don't keep moving, you start to atrophy, and the tendons get all tight. And yeah, it was nice. Luckily, one of my
But
friends
that's ruined your
is a knee
surfing
surgeon.
for the moment
Well,
as
it
well.
has, yeah, but I'm gradually getting more flexibility back. Training jiu-jitsu 3 or 4 times a week, so we do a lot of movement and stuff. But I'm kind of like a crab or a lobster on his back when I'm doing jiu-jitsu, because you have to bend your knees quite a lot because you get these hooks inside as a sort of defensive mode, and one of my legs like sticks a little bit more straight up than the others. So I'm having to develop
it can't do the full grab.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I for someone that's never ever tried Brazilian jiu-jitsu once,
Yeah.
I've following the MMA for years,
Yeah.
so I'm obsessed with watching it. So I know
Me
what
too.
you're talking about.
Me too. I'm loving it. I love it. And for me, because surfing, I shouldn't really talk about myself so much on this podcast because people just go, God, he's talking about that again.
No,
But
cool. Well,
yeah,
I've never heard it. Let's go.
but normally, because I've surfed so much in my life and I've spent so much time dedicated to it, it's obsessive when I was younger. And now I kind of get the equal amount of obsession from coaching it, from giving. So I don't need to surf so much myself, but I do really love to keep active and to have like a little bit of adrenaline flowing. So jiu-jitsu is amazing for me because I can time it, I can schedule it in a certain hour of the day. Because we have this podcast going on, we have the farm here that takes a lot of time. I have the surf coaching, and we have another sort of project on the boil, and I just time, and I'm 53, 54, 53, I think. And I'm just seeing like time ticking away. And we have a young son, he's 6. And I'm thinking, right, I need to leave him this. I need to make a legacy in surfing. I need to, it's kind of funny. So when I go surfing, I can't relax. I can't just spend 3 hours down the beach, checking the different waves and then calmly get into a wetsuit and surf and enjoy it. I can't enjoy it. I just feel like time's ticking away. So,
You're on a schedule.
yeah.
What's the farm? This is super cool, man.
Yeah, well, we have a real small, like we do really traditional 200-year-old Galega olive trees. So we have some beautiful olives, purely no chemical interventions, nothing like that. We also grow our own food. It's not commercial enterprise because it's super hard to grow food or garden food anyway, especially where we are, because we're just that little bit too far away from any market.
Right.
But we grow it for ourselves. So, and if you think you go down to the supermarket these days and you spend nearly 200 euros, sometimes we can spend a week at the supermarket before we're growing our own food. But now, we have chickens and eggs and it doesn't need to be very much. And we manage to eat a lot of our own food, and it saves you a bunch. It saves a minimum wage per month,
Are you self-sufficient? Close to?
I wouldn't say we're self-sufficient. No, I mean there are still things that we need to work on, like our water filtration system and stuff like that, because we have to buy bottled water, which is shocking. But there is a local spring we take water from, but we have a well, but it's just not quite up to food grade standard yet. We can't drink it, we have to, and the filtration systems are mental. All the different options out there, as you can imagine.
Do you know what you're doing? You're doing a version of. I said to Phil, my partner, this morning on the way here, because as we're making our food stories, we've got obviously different mates around. One mate's a chef, another mate does something else, and I like the idea of. Did you ever watch the original River Cottage series?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what was his name? Ben.
You're doing a Portuguese version of River Cottage right now.
Well, funny enough, because when I was watching him, I was living on a small farm in the UK, in Cornwall, and I was trying to do a similar thing. I was living on a sheep farm, working as a sheep farmer, and also trying to grow my own food. But what I found there was I was just desperate for sunlight. I was desperate for sunshine. And to grow food for all year round there is quite difficult because you're just sort of reduced a little bit in the winter. So that was always my idea, was to try to afford my own farm, because there I was renting, but afford my own farm. And Portugal was one of the only places I could actually afford enough land to be semi-self-sufficient. But that's the goal we're aiming to. But it's, for anybody out there with that type of dream, it's my recreation. So my weekends and my day off is often going out into the land and trimming or weeding or picking or whatever. So the work, or laying irrigation tubes. So that's my sort of downtime, from work. But
yeah, your downtime from work is what a lot of people would call work.
Exactly. So if anybody is thinking it's a nice romantic thing to spend the time and money, it's it's not. It's a big hole of money, and it's super hard work. But if you love it, then it's worth it. And I think for me, I always look at it in terms of handing it to my son. So he's got somewhere where he can grow his own food. He can, he can do whatever he wants with it. But it's there, it's paid off, and it's for him really. I sort of see it like that.
Dude,
The
that's the
plant of
dream,
fruit
man.
trees.
That
Yeah.
is, I want to be doing that. And hey, let's give it a time frame.
God, man. Well,
You'd
it's
say what you've got about
achievable.
10 years on me. So
Yeah,
how
it's
can I
it's
give myself
achievable.
10 years from now
It
till I'm doing the same thing?
Look, it's
Okay.
very, very achievable in Portugal. And my advice to you is to buy a decent amount of land and not too much land. And it's got to be agricultural land, and it's got to have a water source. Not the community town water or anything like that. It's got to have like connected to one of the Alcava. They have these big barragens, like dams, and it's got to be connected somewhere. There's a lot of sort of underground pipes that are connected to water sources,
So not
particularly.
just a borehole, you mean?
Well, you can do a borehole, but the actual water quality, you need to filter it a lot. It tends to start getting a little bit more expensive when you have if you have the dam water, it's a little bit less nitrates in it and these kind of things, a bit more sort of neutral pH. Yeah, it gets a little bit technical, but it's better for growing if you can have sort of the water captured in the barragens, which are all around here. We got these pipes at the bottom of our land, which come from a long way away, actually, for irrigation purposes. But that's super important, and not to sort of think, oh, I'm going to buy all of this land, because you got to manage it. And if you're managing a lot of land, it takes a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of machinery. If you go that route, or you can do it with animals, but then animals take a lot of time, and then you're tied to the place for forever, pretty much. You can't just sort of go on holiday anywhere unless you get somebody coming in and working for you, which is also really hard to find.
Is
Um,
there head maths to do as well? So say if you were to be living the dream like that, and you're on like the income streams are super tight, so you're trying to balance everything so it kind of works self-sufficiently. For example, is there head maths in the you want to eat meat? So am I getting a cow, or the cow requires too much grain and grass, so I'm getting chickens instead? Like, is
yeah,
there things like that to consider?
if you're looking for a protein source, chickens all day, not to eat, because you imagine you sort of buy a really decent chicken for €5 or something at the market or for agri-loja. That chicken could give you what 300 eggs or something a year. And that's a lot of protein. But if you killed that chicken and ate it as you're sort of, it's still costing you €5 for a boiled chicken.
Yeah.
So I would always go for get the egg layers and invest in you just need like 12 eggs for a small family, and 12 chickens, sorry, for a small family, and it's going to give you 6, 8, 10 eggs a day,
It's
um,
a dream
which
animal.
is pretty crazy. And then eggs you can do a lot with. And then I think,
Protein.
yeah, and then I think the other thing is to stop having that you don't have to have machinery to cut the grass, because obviously the grass and the weeds get a little bit crazy. Then I would recommend sort of sheep.
Or goats.
Yeah, goats are, because the goats are a little bit of a nightmare. They'll climb up in my olive trees and start eating all the greens on the olive trees. So yeah,
Ah,
goats can be a little bit destructive. Sheep, and maybe a horse or two horses or something like that are good combinations for grazing, because they eat slightly different things. But sheep, because then you can have lamb, and then lamb, every lamb that you produce, maybe two, if you're lucky from a ewe, it could be like 100, €150 a lamb, which it's not so bad. But to eat, um, lamb is beautiful. It's young. It's you can. It hasn't got like that buildup of toxins that you can get in other sources of protein, like fish or a cow. Is eating grass for a long time. That however organic you want to be, or however little intervention, you just can't fight overspray from neighbors or whatever. I think it's almost impossible to be 100% organic unless you have a nice.
wow, is that true? Even in down in the outbacks of the Alentejo?
Yeah, I think unless you're growing your food in a little pocket and you're surrounded by cortisa, or like big the cornfields, and so you have like a buffer zone. Around us, we have a lot of the intensive olive groves, so they're spraying all sorts of stuff, and it gets in the. I mean, luckily the EU is really strict, so it's pretty difficult to. But there is still stuff in the water, in the groundwater, in the you can't get away from it. So, and
No. There's
overspray,
there's that again. Go back to saw it as a meme, but it's really true. What's odd here is like or even back in the UK now. I remember like growing up, and like a mate would have mates who had fortunate parents who were rich and had swimming pools. They would be absolutely full of moths and bees and insects all summer. You would have to scoop out like a menagerie of stuff every morning, and they're just not that many there now in the pools. And like you go for night drives. Maybe it's different. Is it different down the Alentejo? But I remember being a kid and you'd be like going on a 2-hour road trip at night with your parents, and the windshield would just be smashed with moths and insects. And cars pretty clean nowadays. I don't know if that's me picking up on something that's not a reality, but
No, I think you're right. I think definitely bees are suffering, and I think insects. I mean, they try in the UK. You actually get paid as a farmer to keep a lot of stuff like hedgerows, sort of wilding. There's a certain meterage you get, a certain amount of money per meter you get to keep the edges of your field unmanaged, so it creates habitats. Yeah, but I'm not sure how much now that the farmers get, but I know in the past it was a little bit better. But no, in Portugal, like, these big olive growers are just literally nuking any type of insect that's in there. And we are like a little belt of nature, but you just, you try your best. There's nothing, I don't believe there is anything truly organic. It's very hard in this day and age to be 100%. Look, you'll get an organic certificate, but that just means that the ingredients or the chemical content there is up to a certain level. It's up to an acceptable level. A little bit like when they have tuna and they allow it to be a certain amount of radioactivity as food grade. So,
yeah.
I mean, even like if you buy sort of fresh organic raspberries, for example, they've been sprayed with like a mold retardant. It's impossible to get fresh raspberries to market without spraying them with something that stops them going moldy.
And I mean, we wonder why the proliferation of all these diseases. Is it that we're learning more, or are we getting sicker, or I don't know? Humans are living longer, but these. I'm a big fan. I don't know if you've ever. One of my geeky hobbies is fungi, mushroom picking.
Oh, brilliant!
Icophile, if you like, and I remember going around the UK as a sort of teenager, and I was obsessed with mushroom picking, and really no one in the UK was sort of doing it at that point in time. It was like the Eastern Europeans and all of this. So the woods would have prolific flushes of like quite premium gastronomic species of fungi and other species of fungi, and I'd be all over it. But what I kind of quite quickly learned is a lot of these grounds, and like I'd go on like commons and local playing fields and whatnot, and of course all these parklands in the UK, they're quite sparse and they're sprayed with fungicides, and it actually becomes the older you've got, the less and less species of wild fungi I actually harvest to eat. I love going and finding them and for the hunt, but in terms of consuming them, like it's a tricky scenario.
Yeah, you just don't know, and I think this is what I find so fascinating at the moment. There's sort of been an awakening in the US, especially with Robert Kennedy, is his name, RFK, who's sort of been their food and farming guru, because there is so much vested in fertilizers, and it's like a cycle of a sort of money cycle there, where even the sort of agronomists that get educated in universities are sponsored by agrochemical companies. So you just get this cycle of knowledge and everything, which is just all centered around farming in a particular way. And there is some people are waking up to sort of regenerative methods, which are basically what Portugal almost never adapted to the new methods, and is still in many respects a regenerative sort of farming type community, which is amazing because we're so slow to adapt here. We managed to miss all of the chemical interventions and the reliance on chemical fertilizers and pesticides and things, and we sort of come out the other end with
That's
a
incredible. It's
yeah,
one of the things I said recently that yes, the bureaucracy hellish if you're trying to start a business, but on the same token, this slow moving machine that values its kind of culture
yeah,
and is very resistant to change in this kind of new world of AI. I really like our positioning here.
yeah,
I don't know if I necessarily want to be at the frontier, you know. I'm happy to be somewhere that takes it a little slower.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you.
Something
I
to be
agree with
said for
you.
that, maybe. Just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the ideal scenario is that AIs. I can just sort of get the AIs to do as much work as possible to reduce what I need to do to about a day a week. And then I can spend 6 days a week with family, exploring culture, exploring food, meeting friends, surfing, if I can get back into that, doing more jiu-jitsu training. And I think that is the goal, and that's achievable in Portugal because we have already a culture which is about 2 hour long lunches.
Mhm.
So it's already here, and I think it's gonna be the growth. Sports and food, I think, is and activities and festivals and community gathering, I think, is growth industries. People want more human connection as their
Yep.
earning potential becomes more autonomized in many respects.
I totally agree. You know, I find that a very strange concept with like humans. We're very industrious, social beings, and we always find something to do, tinker with, keep us busy. And I personally believe, you know, if I was forced to bet the house on an outcome, but I guess I have a positive mindset. But I think we might be heading into a through the difficulty, of course, but like a renaissance, really, of human flourishing,
Yeah,
where we time to kind of perhaps
be
reach
creative.
some kind of full creative potential. It's a
Yeah.
possibility.
I hope that. I hope that. And I think it will probably be for the vast majority, of people who are inspired to do things. But I do, there is a sort of worry that, if people say become on a universal basic income, there is that concern that many people will just do nothing and it will just be not healthy for them not to get up every day and work. They'll lose that type of discipline and you'll have like a zombie land like you have in some of the US states or towns or cities. I don't know whether it's just my
The devil
Instagram
makes
feed.
work for idle hands.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's my Instagram feed, but I often get these poor souls just sort of double bent over in the streets, and I'm fascinated by it because I'm like,
Yeah.
how,
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you know, in the current state, again, let's be careful not to go too political, but in the current state of most of Europe and the UK, if you want to do nothing, you can do nothing now anyway.
yeah,
So I don't think that's going to change. The people that are going to do nothing are always going to work out how to do nothing.
yeah,
So, but you know, that leaves room for everyone else to kind of flourish, grow, and create.
yeah. I just wonder how we can, I suppose we just have to deal with it, and perhaps like creating spaces for people just to lose themselves is going to be a reality of our future. I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, I just don't know these zombie areas in the US or it's just frightening for me. I don't know why, but maybe they're on their own journey and that's meant to be. And perhaps we need to sort of create. Portugal's got kind of forward thinking philosophy on drugs and laws. We're quite
They were the first,
decriminalized.
2012. It was
Yeah,
the most progressive country in with that movement. They were a flagship to the rest of the world of what you could do with a traumatized addiction culture.
yeah,
I don't. I stopped paying it. I was obsessed with that at one point. I was
yeah,
like, my life was all about that stuff. But I haven't really paid attention to the last 10 years. But it'd be
yeah.
interesting to look at how that's progressed or not, and help the country or not, as the case may be.
Yeah, somehow we come through it, but it's those that don't come through it. We've all. I mean, I've lost friends to that kind of. I mean, I was at art college in London in the sort of 1990s, 89,
How
90,
were you?
91. Yeah, so we had all the Spiral
Where?
Tribe
Which
raves.
one?
I was at Central St. Martin's College.
All my mates went there. I
Yeah,
went to
yeah,
drama school, and all my mates went to St. Martin's. I wonder if
yeah. That's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah, it was fun. I was only there for a little bit of time, and then I worked a little bit there for a design company, and Yeah, it was a good time. It was fun. It was now looking back, I sort of belong to all these Instagram feeds where they're playing some of the old tunes and stuff like that, and it's just like, wow, that was such a great time. But now it looks positive. But at the time, I was thinking, oh, this is a little bit underground, a bit dodgy, and it was a bit naughty. But now I sort of look back on it as fond, and you grow up, you grow out of that. Other things become important, but some people you lose along the way, right? I
Yeah,
don't
you
know what it
can't
was.
save everyone, man. You
Exactly.
can lead a horse to water, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And that's what I've thought. That's where I'm at the moment. It's like, people are on their own journey, and can talk for myself on this one, but you only live by, you only live by your own personal experiences. So
Yeah.
it's normally the hard punches that wake you up the most. But
Yeah.
yeah, for some people, they're gonna knock you out. But
Yeah.
can't save everyone, man.
No, and it's difficult to know how far do we go as citizens in creating spaces and paying for spaces where people can just literally obliterate themselves. I'm always debating this in my mind because I have like two sides to it in my head. I'm like looking at these people going, Jesus Christ, why are you doing that? You're just wasting your life. There's so much opportunity. There's people that would give anything, cancer patients or whatever, that give anything for the possibility of life, and you're just wasting it. And then the other side of me thinks, well, they're sick, they've got on this addiction cycle, and it's, they're suffering, and as morally, as conscientious people, we need to sort of somehow apportion some care towards them from our own labor. I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
how much is it our responsibility? And it's such a difficult one.
it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's the classic me.
Yeah.
I've gone from sort of two sides in my mind. There's a like deeply libertarian side. There was a very progressive side that, as the more older I come, the more conservative it gets.
We
I
do.
think that's the classic journey of
Yeah.
a human
You
being
start
normally.
off as a communist
Yeah,
at
you start,
university,
yeah, end up
then you
as a
go for
libertarian.
libertarian, then yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, you know,
It's fun.
but on that note, there's the human. It goes back to being local, I think, doesn't it? Like it's a bit, what is outside your doorstep and who can you actually help
Mm,
locally and close to you out of your little network? And I just think, rather than broader strokes of a brush of a kind of central authority trying to take care, all that, the nanny state, and
mm,
if they're through, looking out for people around you and your fellow man and neighbor, that is kind of where it's at. So
but
if everyone focuses on their local community and what's around them, and makes that, tries to help that be the most healthy, nurturing environment possible, then that's really you're forming healthy nucleuses, around yourself everywhere.
yeah, and that
But then again,
spreads,
that's
right?
that's the big city thing, man. Easy to say that when we're living in little neighborhoods and the wherever we are, but boom, you're in the center of San Fran or London.
Mm.
Different ball game.
Well, and saying that, it's actually exactly the same comment I made to this chap yesterday's interview. You're talking about the construction of cities, and he said, like, sometimes in like downtown New York, it's like you go to your local delicatessen, you strike up a conversation with the guy who makes you coffee every day, or you start sitting next to the same people at the bus stop, and that's you sort of create that little, like what you're saying, that sort of neighborhood, that sort of people that you see every day, and that those waves of positivity spread from one person to another and outward.
Mm.
Yeah, it's
And
very cool.
that's when so for where I am, it's I wait my neighbor and I, we look at each other, our windows are quite exposed to each other, so we wave and say good morning every morning, and
Nice.
occasionally I'll pop round, and we got a pomegranate tree, very small one, but suddenly in October it's full.
Nice.
So I take them, the neighbors' pomegranates, and and then everyone brings us lemons, and
Great.
it's it's that's how a neighborhood should be.
Yeah.
And you can keep your neighbors your neighbors. You don't need to be in each other's personal space, but there's reciprocity, isn't there? Give and take, and if they need something, I can be there, and vice versa.
Yeah. Isn't it great as well? And what is the vehicle of that connection is a pomegranate or a lemon or some sort of food produce. It goes
So
back to what we
so true.
initially said, wasn't it? It's like
So
the
true.
literal
One
olive
neighbour's a
branch.
German man with a Portuguese wife. He's been here forever. He comes over, and because my kids grew up in Berlin, he comes over speaking German,
Ah, nice.
and he brings his lemons. That everyone else is Portuguese, and we're doing our best to learn. So it's important for us to try and offer a bit of something back to them, for having yet another set of British people in the neighbourhood.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's funny because I think our generation of we are essentially immigrants, but I think we try to make the effort to become more Portuguese than the Portuguese.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is we are immigrants. I've been an immigrant for a long time, and
Mm.
my father's history is that of immigration and fleeing Eastern Europe, the Russians, and all of this. And it's there is that. I feel a responsibility being here. I feel this strange rooted tie to Portugal
Mhm.
through British history, the Treaty of Windsor, and through it hasn't been perfection, but for since Portugal was founded, there's been a multitude of times when we've helped the nation, and I feel this duty being here to kind of try my very best to assimilate and champion Portuguese culture
Mhm.
and, really kind of nurture this precious little bit of Western Europe.
Yeah.
It's like we do have a tie. We do have a deep, it's a political tie, but there's a lot of wars been fought along the way that have kept Portugal, Portugal. And, there is strangely something in that memory, human kind of, you know, sort of psyche that I think ties these two very different cultures together in as ragtag a way as it can be sometimes. It is there.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's partly the reason why I did Podcast Portugal was to try to express the culture to the English speaking world.
Yeah.
Just so that when people do move here or they do arrive, they've got some kind of understanding of the feeling and the local culture so that they don't just trample all over it and come
Yeah.
here to enjoy it and appreciate it and to spread the vibe.
It's cool what you're doing, man. I mean, I think it is it's on us to do that. You don't want to be parasitic on a culture,
Yeah.
especially if you're living in it. We are guests in Portugal as much as we will want and try to be Portuguese and part of it. We really are guests in in their country.
Hmm.
And I think to sort of there's some real respect and reverence from our part to be welcomed, and I feel like it's a duty to sort of help champion the culture.
And what an easy duty it is as well. It's not a
Oh,
hard.
it's a privilege.
It's not a hard duty, is it? Really, to enjoy
I
the
mean,
food.
it's a fucking privilege.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're blessed to be able to have the chance to do it, man.
Aren't we? Aren't we? And I think we're so proud to do it. And I've got a couple of rapid fire questions for you, Jamie.
All right.
So, what is your favorite Portuguese dish?
Letal.
Say again. Ah, leitão. Ah,
Letal.
yeah, the suckling pig.
That
Nice.
man, in food moments in life, when I thought I tried everything, I did not expect to have something that sits in my top five, excuse me, food experiences of my whole life. So currently, number one would be Leitao.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah, my personal. I swing between the two. There is a octopus and sweet potato cataplana, which they serve in the Algarve on the west coast, around sort of Catapetera area. There is a really good place that does that, and that is to die for. And
Can you send that to me?
what's that?
It,
The restaurant?
send
Yeah,
me
I'll
send me the
send it to you.
spot.
Yeah, it's sweet potato and octopus cataplana.
Wow,
Yeah, it's
amazing.
still
And I
very
think I know
interesting.
that little town actually because I drove through it once and I marked it as a place I wanted to stop at one
Yeah,
day.
very interesting place. And up on the hill, there's a beach called Amado, and up on the cliff, there's a little tiny little harbor with a restaurant on the top there above where the fishermen come in, and it's really rich because it's the sago. That area is the sago spawning grounds. And actually, I should put you in touch with another guy down there. He's a photographer, but he's just done a really cool documentary that's in the Portimao Museum on the fishermen of Carapetera. It's a really cool, beautiful photography that he does. It's called Joao Breck, Joao Bacort. I'll put you in
Fabulous.
contact with him. We did a podcast together, but I haven't yet edited it, put it online. But yeah, fascinating guy, and I think that you would really enjoy that documentary. I'll send you the link to it.
Yeah, send it, please. I'd love it. I'm consuming as I'm for like a heap of books
Yeah. Well, he
and
literally went out on the
going
fishing
deep.
boats around Alifano and Sagres. He was out there interviewing the guys on the fishing boats, and just beautiful narration, beautiful photography and stuff. It's really cool.
And it's in Portuguese.
I think, yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah,
That's good. That's
but you
good.
still
I've
get the
learned.
vibe, you know.
Vende.
Exactly, exactly. And then I have another one, the bouillon, Ameixo's bouillon patri.
What's that?
The clams with the garlic and the wine and the olive oil sauce.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Yeah.
it's like the
Yes.
little
Yeah. I think I
clams
had that in
stand
Silves in the Algarve.
silver. Yeah, okay, probably,
Silves. It's cool.
probably.
Yeah.
And then,
Beautiful, man. Oh, I mean, just the seafood, right?
oh
It's,
yeah,
it's
crazy.
mind bending,
It's great.
especially coming from Britain. Like you get here and it's unbelievable.
We export. You know, we export. There's a friend of mine that exports lobster and seafoods all the way down here to Spain and Portugal. He has a big articulated lorry, and he buys crab and lobster and shellfish and drives them all down here to Portugal and
From
Spain.
the UK.
Yeah, from the UK. And the
I mean, it's
UK
like
has
that's
me, but
ridiculous. It's
nobody
like
wants to eat it from the UK. You see, like,
I, it's like the Scottish up there. You know, we have the yeah, exactly. The Scots send it all to Spain.
yeah, and fry Mars bars.
They're unbelievable,
I'm generalizing. Sorry,
unbelievable.
Scottish.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but just it's. I don't know, man. I feel like the British people's palate and culture. I don't know. I'm wondering if they're just sticking to tried and tested economic routes, and if they could find a market in the UK. I mean, do you
There
know
is
what I'm
lots of
saying?
attempts, right? I mean, Jamie Oliver. There's also because I live near Padstow in Cornwall, so there's Rick Stein who just kind of made his whole kind of career based around seafood
Yeah,
and eating gurnard and stuff like that. But it just doesn't seem to take off like the UK. I think the favorite food is curry, right? So
chicken masala.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's although it's like definitely experimental and foreign flavors. Now it's not at all really. It's just sort of staple English food. But I really love English food. It's strange. I really love like roast beef, horseradish sauce, roast potatoes, and parsnips. I mean,
Amazing.
when I
Yeah,
think about that, I get my mouth starts to water.
totally. Yeah, like here's something I haven't cooked for ages: bangers and mash. I did
Yes,
with Cumberland sausages.
yes,
Like creamy mashed potato with a bit of maybe lemon run through.
yeah,
Cumberland sausages slowly cooked
yeah.
till the outsides are
With a bit of onion,
actually
would you put
like
some onion with
Marmite.
that or not? No,
Then again, and then actually here's the Portuguese
onion
bits.
glaze.
Then
Yeah.
it's a red onion gravy, but with Madeira in at the end.
Yeah.
Poured all over the top and then served with shout out to France, Dijon mustard, all go English.
Yeah,
But
yeah, exactly. That sounds
I
good.
want to cook that. It's been ages since I had something like that.
Yeah, you need to cook that right now. We actually make a lot of mashed potato because we grew some beautiful potatoes this year, and early on when I started to harvest them, they were really small and very like the skin you could just rub off. And they were like new potatoes, and as they sort of grew and got a bit older, they became amazing for mashing with some butter.
Yum.
Yeah,
What,
yeah,
less
and olive
waxy and
oil.
a bit more floury.
Yeah, exactly. It was interesting. Interesting
It's the
shades of potato.
here's something interesting as Brits then. What and I've said this in a couple of videos, but I genuinely believe it to be true. Why are the Portuguese chips, home cooked chips, when you find a place that's doing them, so outrageously delicious and better than chips in the UK.
Maybe
Have they
olive
got
oil.
better
Do they
potatoes here than England, or different varieties? What's going on?
it could be the variety of potato, but perhaps it's the oil they cook them in. Perhaps they fry them in olive oil. Maybe it's the different temperature that they're cooked at. Don't know. I don't
I
know.
don't know, like, you know, when you bite into the really good ones, they're well fried,
Oh yeah,
crunchy, salted beautifully, but the potato itself is like a bit waxy and sweet
yeah,
on the side.
yeah.
It's different. I prefer them to English chips when they're done to the, really well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's perhaps it's because it's cooked in olive oil. Maybe that's the trick. I think sort of deep fried in sunflower oil or something is probably not the same as in olive oil. Perhaps.
I think you're right. So sunflower oil has this higher smoking temperature, so you can fry harder at a higher temperature and get that crunch.
Yeah.
But maybe the olive oil thing, you have to be at a slightly lower temperature, so it's a longer fry,
Yeah.
which perhaps creates that mild stickiness.
Yeah, and soaks into the potato a little bit more as well. Like you don't. Maybe it's
Yeah, exactly. And then it takes longer to. Mate, you know what? That could be something.
yeah. I have to ask on the podcast. I've interviewed quite a few chefs, so I'll have to. There's a really amazing guy called Nuno. He has a really great restaurant in Lisbon. It's called Santa Joana, I think it is. But he's just won a Michelin star as well. So shout out to Nuno, a
Oh wow!
really cool guy. And he lived in London actually. He actually opened a restaurant in his living room or something back in the day, because he couldn't find a facility. But super interesting podcast we did with him. He was. Yeah, he's doing really well now in Lisbon with a restaurant. But I need to ask him.
Says a lot that he ended up with a Michelin star after doing that, because he would have been if he did that ages ago, he would have been at the very forefront of that supper club trend that was basically popping off in New York years and
Okay.
years
I
ago.
didn't know about that.
So that's quite innovative thinking and interesting that he would start there and end up with a Michelin star.
Yeah, well, I think he did it from necessity because he had some investors that wanted to build a big restaurant for him and everything like that, and he was like, you know what, I just want to do my own thing and keep it easy. And I said, I'm just going to open a restaurant in my living room.
So cool. I mean, so cool.
Yeah, cool. Very cool guy, actually. Very cool guy. Yeah, Nuno is definitely a super interesting guy and traveled all over the world, and he's just so passionate about being a chef. And I am so happy for him that his restaurant in Lisbon is doing so well, Santa Joana. Yeah, very cool.
Phenomenal. Well, I look forward to digging into that because we have a whole series that we do called The Signature, which is exploring the signature dish of disruptive up-and-comers, newcomers, and awarded, accoladed chefs. Obviously, beginning the search in Portugal. So we've just shot the second one 2 days ago. So
Brilliant.
I will dig into Nuno and his restaurant. That's really cool.
Yeah, I've got loads of contacts for you. Actually, if you look back through the podcast, there is another restaurant. There's a couple of guys, one from, I think he's Argentinian, and a local Azorean. They have a restaurant called Bioma in the Azores. They're doing really well. It's just such a beautiful little restaurant as well. I don't know if you've been to the Azores. Oh my God, the Azores! It's one of my top dishes as well. Is Azorean steak.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because those cows are just eating the most beautiful, lush, green Atlantic grass. It's similar to sort of Irish grass. And the meat that they make in the steak is just out of this world. And of course, all the seafood there as well. It's just, yeah, it's another whole place. I really want to explore more the Azores as well because it's just fantastic.
I totally agree. It's like at the very top of the list. I want to get out there and tell the stories. It looks like, a little bit like Madeira does. It looks kind of like, it's Hawaii-esque.
Yeah, it's basically
wild, rugged, volcanic landscapes.
It's completely wild. It's completely interesting and full of characters and lots of old tales. It's just another place. Portugal is just completely crazy. It's full of all these places to discover. We need more. I always say that I need several lifetimes to do all the things that I'm interested in.
My goodness.
I'm so sporadic with my interests,
It's funny you should say that, because it's I've basically been I have this relentless map of ideas, concepts, places, and adventures and stories we want to tell.
Yeah.
And my Azores list is already peppered with concept spots to go and ideas for stories we want to tell. And I don't know when we'll get out there, but we will get out there.
Great. Well, I have anything you need. I have a bunch of contacts, a bunch of really cool people you can speak to anytime. And I think definitely I need to put into the show notes of this podcast exactly how people can follow your YouTube channel and any other channels that you have that you want to put on here. It goes out to all the podcast platforms, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts.
You can follow us on air. It's at Global Food Quest.
Okay.
I think the YouTube is at globalfoodquest.tv.
Okay.
And we're on, anywhere visuals. So there's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Slightly different curated formats. Instagram is currently full stories and curation. TikTok is pretty much Instagram, but with a few other younger things thrown in.
Like
and YouTube,
dancing.
You're going to start. For true food content bingers, you're going to start seeing some much longer format stuff on YouTube.
Brilliant. That sounds amazing. And for everybody listening, I'll leave those links directly in the show notes. You just go down there, scroll in your Apple Podcasts or whatever, and you can just click the link directly, and it will send you to Jamie's projects. Jamie, well, we could probably talk forever. Maybe we should do another one in a few months or something, because we have so much to talk about, and I think that we got a lot of synergy there with shared passions and interests and shared missions.
I agree, man. It sounds like we do. I mean, let's. I'll come and see you at some point. How about that in the Alentejo? Let's make something happen.
Let's do it. I've already kind of got a few ideas. I'm like, okay, should we spend some time in Portugal to my friends like wine bar there? When we got a restaurant, seafood restaurant. Then we got the Italian mafia guys in there forever. I've already mapped out there's so many places.
That's the story, and they're your mates already.
Yeah.
We'll make something happen there. That's
cool.
The story.
All right, sounds great. I'll try to set it up with them. Jamie, such a pleasure, man.
Thanks for reaching out, man. It's such a cool topic. Yeah, appreciate having a chat with you. Fun.
Great connection. Thank you. And good luck with all your projects. Love it. I'm definitely following. I'm a big fan. I was always a big fan of Keith Floyd. Remember Keith Floyd used to cook outside?
You might have noticed this channel's a little bit of Keith Floyd meets Rick Stein meets Anthony Bourdain with Vice Munchies thrown in for good measure.
Brilliant. All good stuff. Classic. I love it. All right, Jamie, thank you so much, man. Thanks for your time. Take care.
Thank you, Justin. See you, mate.
Wow, great episode. That's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Justin West, Podcast Portugal. Voices of Portugal, stories for the world. Did you know that Portuguese bank accounts can sometimes be frozen by the authorities? As someone who's traveled extensively and now runs a business here in Portugal, I value freedom, seamless usability, and bulletproof security. That's why I can't say enough good things about Revolut. With a Revolut account as your backup, you'll still be able to pay bills, receive payments, and keep everything running smoothly, even if you're not in the country. Revolut gives you multi-currency accounts, lets you spend in over 150 currencies at interbank rates, and provides advanced security features like instant card freeze, disposable virtual cards, and safe online shopping. And an app that's as intuitive as it gets. To help support Podcast Portugal, and if you're thinking about setting up a bank account as a backup, click the link in the show notes to sign up for a new Revolut account. It's a win-win situation. You get all the benefits of Revolut, and every time someone signs up, Revolut rewards Podcast Portugal with €40. Revolut, freedom in your pocket. Sign up today and show your support for Podcast Portugal. It's keeping me from my romance, that's the history, the mystery of the century. Stop the train.